Well, good morning. Aloha from Honolulu, and welcome to my broadcast. I'm happy to be up and around this morning and living here and sharing with you this beautiful place. It's kind of gloomy this morning. Hey, good morning, Corby. It's a bit gloomy this morning because it rained, but without the rain, we wouldn't call this paradise, right? It would not be the amazingly wonderfully beautiful place that it is. So welcome to the gloom of Hawaii. I use the word aloha sparingly because I don't fully feel it yet. And what I mean is that it's a very complex word. It's if we reduce it just to hello and goodbye, we do it a terrible injustice. Because it's so much fuller expression of well-being for people to give to one another. It's kind of like very similar to the word peace. We have 32 translations for the Semitic word peace, and just to say peace and think it means one of those in terms of, say, lack of conflict. It just doesn't, or just inner peace. It doesn't. It means a whole range of prosperity and well-being and community life. And aloha is similar. It's just a range of empowering blessing wishes that go along with that word. So until I fully feel it and be able to give it to people, I don't want to presume that I know what the Hawaiian terms mean. It's kind of an effort on my part to be respectful. I want to include in my morning conversations, welcome Gossamer. I want to include in my morning inspirations Hawaiian sources, and I'm getting to learn those and getting those accumulated. I have not succeeded yet to the extent that I want to, but we'll have those for you. Hello, Osman Lee Drillis. Welcome. So I'm going to read this morning from a familiar mystic for me. This is a woman who lived in Basra, which is, of course, now in what we call Iraq, but Basra was a village in Mesopotamia, which is, Mesopotamia means between the rivers, River Tigris and Euphrates. And she lived there in the 6th century. Apparently was a very beautiful young girl, and because she was sex trafficked, what we would call enslaved to sex industry. Lived that way until she was 50 years old. At age 50, she was released, or her freedom was purchased, and she began to write mystical poetry about her experience of the divine. And in the mystical life, there are two levels. One level is the conscious level, and the other level is the subconscious level. The conscious level is what we see, hear, feel, touch, taste, smell. The unconscious level is what we might call intuition more. It has to do with the connection with the universe. I often use the idea that the world is, all of creation is infused with the presence and the love of the divine, and it gives it flavor, it gives it excitement, it gives it energy and spirit. So the mystics are very much in touch with this. They live on this level, in an area, they trust their subconscious, intuitive minds, and they write out of that. One day, this is called. Remember, this is a woman who lived in prostitution. One day, he did not leave after kissing me. You see the conscious level, which is her experience of life, of engaging men in love making and sexual trafficking. Then she applies it here, and you get the meaning of the deeper subconscious connection with the divine. One day, he did not leave after kissing me. She had a great sense of humanity, I think. This one is called Our Beauty. It says, live with dignity, women. Live with dignity, men. Few things will more enhance our beauty as much. How do you claim your own sense of dignity and self-worth? Live in dignity, women. Live with dignity, men. Few things will more enhance our beauty as much. I read these because it brings to my mind that deeper level, and brings to my mind the eternal. The perfect stillness, this is entitled. Love is the perfect stillness and the greatest excitement and most profound act, and the world almost as complete as his name. Love is the perfect stillness and the greatest excitement and most profound act, and the word almost as complete as his name. In Islam, the names of God are highly cherished. There are, I forget, 90-some names, or 80 or 90 some names of God that are recited in the Quran. And so the value of the name is here, and also equated with the power of love. To speak someone's name is to engage, to experience them. Some say it is a way of controlling them, but what's more important is the relationship. This one's entitled The Way It Goes. Why think God has not touched everything that comes to your desk? True, he may have kept the best for himself. That is just the way it goes. I don't know that I understand that one, but I offer it to you. Why think God has not touched everything that comes to your desk? True, he may have kept the best for himself. That's just the way it goes. Good morning. So I'm reading from Rabia, a 6th, 7th century poet, mystical writer from Basra, and sharing with you her writings about her life, which really become windows to her soul, to the depth of her being, and to her sense of the divine. This is called "Die Before You Die." This was a phrase from Muhammad. He said, "May you die before you die." Ironic, but one of the most intimate acts of our body is death. So beautiful appeared my death, knowing who then I would kiss. I died 1,000 times before I died. Die before you die, said the Prophet Muhammad. Have wings that feared ever touch the sun. I was born when all I once feared I could love. Die before you die, said the Prophet Muhammad. Have wings that feared ever touched the sun? I was born when all I once feared I could love. Welcome, everybody. I'm reading mystical writings of Rabia from Basra in the 7th century. This was one of my favorites. This one was read Sunday morning and then worship service that I attended this past Sunday. It's entitled, "The Sky Gave Me Its Heart." The sky gave me its heart because it knew mine was not large enough to care for the earth the way it did. Why is it we think of God so much? Why is there so much talk about love? When an animal is wounded, no one has to tell it, "You need to heal." So naturally it will nurse itself the best it can. My eye kept telling me, something is missing from all I see. So it went in search of the cure. The cure for me was God's beauty, the remedy for me to love. Again, there's this conscious level that we all live on, and from that level we draw metaphors that open up the door to the subconscious mind and the subconscious level to experience the connection that we have with everyone and everything. I found it interesting as I've read, particularly in the Western religions, about the experience of the mystics in Europe and in the West. They tended to be shunned from the congregational life. It's kind of interesting. I think it's because they had a fierce independence. The more direct your experience of the divine, the more fiercely you stand over and against injustice and irrationality and people who want to control others. And as is true today, the temples, the buildings, the churches represent institutions that oftentimes are dominant of people's spirits, domineering of people's spirits. This is called "in my soul." In my soul there is a temple, a shrine, a mosque, a church where I kneel. Prayer should bring us to an altar where no walls or names exist. Is there not a region of love where the sovereignty is illumined? Is there not a region of love where the sovereignty is illumined nothing, where ecstasy gets poured into itself and becomes lost, where the wing is fully alive but has no mind or body? In my soul there is a temple, a shrine, a mosque, a church that dissolve to God. Poetry of the mystical life from, hello, Sweden. Poetry of the mystical life from Rabia, who wrote from Basra in the 8th century. It works. This one is called, "Would you come if someone called you by the wrong name?" I wept because for years he did not enter my arms. Then one night I was told a secret. Perhaps the name you call God is not really God's. Maybe it's just an alias. I thought about this and came up with a pet name for my beloved I never mentioned to others. All I can say is it works. Centering prayer is a practice that's of a particular popularity these days, and in centering prayer, we begin by asking for a sacred word. It could be a sacred name of God that beckons, that brings closeness, that invokes, that kind of creates the bridge that cross over, that God crosses over to meet us. So this is, I think, to which she refers, this kind of beckoning, reorienting orienting our minds in the center of the universe. I'm going to close with this one. This is a beautiful one. They Might Hold Hands, it's called. Maybe if I brought the moon a little closer, lovers would argue less. They might hold hands outside and point to the heavens and say, I think God is up to something sweet. I think God is up to something sweet. No, I don't. No speak French, I'm afraid. Do a little bit of Spanish. Anyway, this is Larry Grimm reading from Rabia's work this morning. And join me again. We'll get into a variety of poetic writers, mystical poets from across the world and around the centuries. Now that was a mixed metaphor. Across the centuries and around the world, and including some from Hawaii. To inspire is to breathe in. I hope you breathe in today. Breathe in the depths of love into your soul. I love you. Have a great one.